Okay, so let's briefly talk about what we went through in the first two classes. Okay, so in the first class, we did talk about vocabulary. Okay, so what does that mean? So, yeah, it means before you start actually using numbers like 33, 95, 3 million, 20,000, whatever the number may be, before you actually start using numbers, you have to know how to say the word number. Okay, so that's why we looked into, depending on perspective, 3 or 4 versions of the word number, because you have to know when to use which. Yeah, sometimes you will use 숫자, sometimes 수, and sometimes 번호, and also sometimes the abbreviation of 번호, which is 번. Okay, so when you are saying the word number, you always have to look into context and ask yourself, yes, which version of the word number should I use? Okay, so that was what we talked about in the first class. Okay, so in the second, we actually started to look at numbers. And as a way of starting to really talk about numbers, we first talked about the two formats of numbers in Korean. Yes, number one, native Korean numbers and Sino numbers. Okay, so there were two formats. Okay, so which means that you also have to know when to use which. Yeah, that is something that you also have to practice. Identifying situations in which you would use native Korean numbers and situations in which you would use Sino numbers. Okay, so that's what page number 5 was about, right? Yeah, it tells you when to use native, when to use Sino. Okay, so now, numbers usually have a function, right? When you are using numbers, you're usually using numbers because you are either looking for function number 1, 2, or 3. Number 1 was to count how many. Yeah, that's something that numbers can do, right? That numbers can be used for to count how many. So for example, if you say something like, how many people came? Sorry. How many people came? And you can say, 9 people came. Okay, so in that case, you're using numbers, 9 in this case, to count how many. But that's not the only reason why you would use numbers, right? You can also use numbers to quantify. Okay, so a good example would be weight, right? So if I want to ask my friend, how heavy is your bag? Okay, your bag looks heavy. So now in that case, if my friend says, oh, it's let's say like 60 pounds, or let's say 18 kilograms, whatever. In that case, we're using numbers, but are we counting how many? No, because when I say kilograms, yes, now that is for talking about weight. Now, is weight something that you count by saying how many? Do you say, how many weights is your bag? Of course not. So weight is not something that you count by saying how many, it's something that you quantify. Okay, so that's function number 2. Numbers can do that, right? And function number 3 would be to label, right? For example, if my friend says, come to room number 7. Okay, so how do I know which one is 7? Well, because, if you look at the door, it will literally say 7. Okay, so in this case, I'm not counting how many rooms there are. I'm not quantifying anything about this room. I'm just saying this room is named, labeled number 7. That's how you know that this room is number 7 and not 8. Okay, so these would be the 3 typical functions that numbers can have. Okay, so of course the reason why I'm talking about it is because, you'd look into the function of numbers usually to decide which format of numbers you would use, Sino or native. Okay, so yes, usually when you are counting how many, then you would use native Korean numbers. Okay, so now if you feel like it might be a little bit confusing for me in a real life situation, if I were to try to identify whether I'm counting, quantifying, or labeling. Okay, so if you feel like that could be a little bit confusing, then look at it this way. So In Korean, when you are counting or quantifying, also when you're counting, you will always have some kind of a counting unit. So that's why in Korean, knowing how to say book and two is not enough to say two books. Because everything will have some kind of a counting unit. Well, usually. There are rare exceptions, but usually. Okay, so kwon is a counting unit for books. So you don't say two books, you're saying two kwons of books. Yeah, similar to when you say two cups of coffee, two bottles of water, or something like that. So two kwons of books. Okay, so the trick is, if you feel like sometimes I could be confused whether I am counting, quantifying, or labeling, do this. Look at the unit that you're using and ask yourself a simple question. What is this unit for? It's for books. And now, are books something that I can count by saying how many? I would say yes. If the answer is yes, then you are counting. You're not quantifying, you're not labeling either. Okay, so now, yes, I can literally say how many. I can count books by saying how many. I can say, how many books do you read a month or a year or whatever? Okay, so now, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, a water sip. Okay. So, yeah, once again, I'm sorry, I'll start over. So, if you feel like, yes, you could be a little bit confused whether you are counting, quantifying, or labeling, yeah, do this. Look at the unit that you're using and ask yourself, what is this unit for? It's for books. Okay, so are books something that I can count by saying how many? I would say yes, because I can literally say, how many books do you read a year? Okay, so yeah, if you can count it by saying how many, then you are, yes, counting. Therefore, you use native Korean numbers. But for another example, let's do the same thing when we're saying 30 degrees when you're talking about temperature. Now, once again, do the same thing. Look at the unit and ask yourself a simple question. What is this unit for? It's for temperature. Now, is temperature something that you count by saying how many? For example, do you ask, yeah, it feels kind of cold today. How many temperatures is today? Of course not. You don't say that, right? So temperature is not something that you count by saying how many, which indicates that you're not counting, you're quantifying. You quantify temperature, you don't count temperature. Okay, so in that case, you know that you're quantifying, therefore you use sino numbers. Also, yeah, for example, when you're talking about your phone number, yeah, let's say I'm gonna say my phone number is 1234. Now, am I counting how many phone numbers I have? Of course not. Yeah, it's just that I'm saying, yeah, the current frequency that has to be activated for you to call my phone specifically, that current frequency is labeled 1234. That's why my phone number is 1234. So in that case, you would be using numbers to label, not count. So therefore, still sino numbers. Okay, so yeah, this is what you have to keep in mind in order to, yes, properly identify whether you are in a situation in which you would use native or sino numbers. However, yes, there are some exceptions, right? Yeah, usually just doing this would be enough. However, there are variables. Okay, so for example, time. Now you could say, yeah, well, you said if you're using numbers for things or situations that are not counted by saying how many, then you are quantifying or labeling, therefore you use sino numbers, right? I'm gonna say, yeah. Then you could say, well, then time is always sino numbers, right? Yeah, usually. As you can see, most units that are used for time, minute, second, year, month, week, day, yes, sino numbers, as they should, but one exception, hour. Okay, so when you're saying 2 hours, 2 minutes, 2 seconds, well, only 2 for hour will be in native Korean numbers. Okay, and also age, but only in colloquial conversational Korean. Okay, so yeah, you don't say how many ages are you? Okay, so of course, yeah, it's not something that you count by saying how many, so it should be Sino numbers. But in colloquial conversational Korean, not professional Korean, for example, yeah, it's an exception. It uses native Korean numbers, and the unit would be 살. So you're saying 49 sals of age. Okay, number 3. Yeah, when you're talking about times. Once again, times is not time because in this case, I'm talking about when you say, how many times did you practice? Okay, so yeah, I literally said how many times. So it is something that can be counted by saying how many, so it should be native Korean numbers. But yeah, that's why it's an exception. In colloquial conversational Korean, yes, it will be native Korean numbers, as it should. However, in professional Korean, when you're talking about times, then it's Sino numbers. That's why it's a variable. That's why it's an exception. Okay, so we talked about all of this. Now, in the first 2 lives of this course. Okay, and we also did look into a couple of examples, right? We did make a couple of sentences. So today what we're going to do in the 3rd live, yes, we're going to build more examples, more sentences, so that we can get more used to identifying whether I am in a situation where I should use native or Sino, and also get more used to counting, quantifying units, and get more used to, let's say, bigger numbers. Okay, so does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay. So, let's take a look at a couple of examples then. So, now, let's say I'm gonna buy something. I'm going to buy something. Well, then, of course, we have to talk about money, right? Price. Okay, so now, do you say how many money do we have left? Do you say that? Is it a yes or no? Do you say how many money do you have? Do you say that? Exactly, no. You don't say it. You say how much instead. You don't say how many. Okay, so then you are using numbers for something that is not counted by saying how many, which is money. So you're quantifying. Okay, so we're going to use Sino numbers. Okay, so now when it comes to Sino numbers, what was a technical difference between native Korean numbers and Sino numbers? Of course, they are different in a lot of aspects, but one of them was, yes, you usually only use native Korean numbers up to 99. So starting from 100, you only use Sino numbers. That's why you have these crazy big numbers only in Sino numbers. Okay, so when you are using big numbers, yeah, the sentiment between the system, the counting system. So between English and Korean, there will be a huge difference. So for example, yes, this is something that you have to get used to. Now, 1만 is 10,000. So you never say 10,000 in Korean. You don't say something like 10,000, 10,000. That is literally something that doesn't even exist because 1만 is 10,000s. Okay, so yeah, that's why when you're saying something like 80,000, you would say, yeah, 8만. Okay, so now let's say something, I'm trying to buy something and it's 80,000 won. Okay, so yeah, you use won in Korea, in Korea, right? For money. Okay, so 80,000 won, which is 8만 won. Okay, and we're talking about money, therefore we're going to use Sino numbers. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna ask someone, how much is this? And I'm gonna say, someone asks me, how much is this? And I'm gonna say, it is, 8. So, 만, and then 1. Like dollar, but in Korean, 1. In Korea, 1. Okay, so, once again, I'm not going to say 80,000, I'm going to say 8만. Okay, so, let's say 8만 won. Okay, so I built the number 8만, which is 80,000. Okay, so let's take a look at the structure of the sentence. We have 2 nouns because any kind of a counting or quantifying unit can be a noun. Okay, so it is a noun. So when you have 2 nouns, when you're just saying noun is a noun, including pronouns, when you're just saying noun is a noun, it means that you're saying a subject is a subject complement, right? And in Korean, a sentence can never end with a subject complement. If it does, it needs an ending mark attached behind it. So, yes. And no is, am, was, were, are. Now, it is too obvious, right? So our subject, it will be invisible because, of course, we know what we're talking about. Okay, so too obvious. So I'm just going to say the subject complement plus the ending mark. Okay, so 8만 원. Okay, and 이에요, right? Okay, so 예요. If the subject complement ended with a vowel, I would have attached 에요, but right now it ends with a consonant, right? The end consonant. So therefore, I'm going to attach 예요. Okay, so if someone says, how much is this? I can say 8만 원이에요. 8만 원이에요. 8만 원이에요. Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay. So let's take a look at another example then. Now this time, let's say unfortunately there was a fire. Okay, so now, I guess it was a big fire because someone will say, 9, let's try to say this, 9 소방차, fire trucks, came. Okay, 9 소방차 came. Okay, so we need, the number 9. 9 소방차. Okay, so now, is 소방차 a truck, a car, a vehicle, something that you can count by saying how many? Can you do that? Is it a yes or no? Exactly, yeah. Because I can say, how many 소방차s came? Was it a big fire? How many fire trucks came? Well, 9. Okay, so yes. We have the subject 9 소방차 and we have, the verb came then. Okay, so now once again, when you're counting how many in Korean, you always need some kind of a counting unit. So let's take a look into some examples of counting units then. Let's go to page number 7. Now, a fire truck, 소방차, is also a vehicle, just like a car is, just like a motorcycle is. Okay, so the counting unit for vehicle would be 대. So, you're not saying 5 cars in Korean, you're saying 5 대s of cars. Okay, so now when you are using a number and a counting unit and the thing that you are counting, now do not separate them when it comes to part of speech. Meaning, if one of them is, let's say the thing is the subject, they are all the subject together. If the thing is the subject complement, then they are all together the subject complement. Okay, so yeah, for example, so that's why in this case I'm gonna say 9 days of 소방차s, and they will all together stay in the subject position. Okay, so yes, because we are counting, we are in a situation where we are using numbers to count how many. We're going to use native Korean numbers, right? Yeah, 아홉. And once again, the tip when it comes to pronunciation always applies. Numbers are no exceptions. I say, if you see some kind of an H sound somewhere in the middle of a word, it's going to be practically silent, right? So yeah, of course, that applies when it comes to speaking numbers as well. So I'm not going to say 아홉, I'm going to say 아홉, as if the H is not there at all. Okay, so, well, let's try to say that then. 소방차 아홉, and then 대. I'm going to place the counting unit. So 9 days of 소방차s. And then, yes, 오다. But of course, come, I don't want its display form. I want its actual form in past tense. So 왔어요. Okay, so now we have 소방차 9대 왔어요. 소방차 9대 왔어요. 소방차 9대 왔어요. Okay, so now we have the sentence. However, once again, I always emphasize that, yes, if you are learning language for the sake of learning language, if you are just memorizing like verbs and adjectives and nouns for the sake of it, then yeah, well, maybe this is enough. However, if you're using language as means of communication, then, well, yeah, nuance is the most important. Okay, so let's take this sentence and imbue some nuance into it. Now, how would you give off the nuance that, for me, 9 소방차s, yeah, 9 is a big number. I'm very surprised. I'm very shocked. I'm very overwhelmed by how big this fire is. Oh my god, 9 소방차s? Okay, so if you want to give off that nuance that, yeah, 9 is a crazy number for 소방차. Now, how would you do that then? We're not gonna say that I'm surprised or shocked. No, we're not gonna say it. Imbue that nuance into the sentence. Okay. Okay, exactly. I like your answers. Okay, yeah. Now, I always ask this question, right? I always ask this question, is 9 absolutely a big number or a small number? My answer would always be, it depends. It's not absolutely a big number, and it's not absolutely a small number either. Because if I was expecting 40 소방차s to come, then 9 is a small number. If we only needed 2, but 9 came, now that's a big number. Okay, so it always depends. Okay, so yeah, now these particles that you are looking at here, 이나, if the word that it is being attached to ends with a consonant, and na if it ends with a vowel. Yes, there are a lot of things that these particles can do, in large 3. But one of the things that they can do is to indicate that the speaker is looking at a number as a big number, therefore is surprised, overwhelmed, pleased, frustrated, or even overwhelmed. Okay, so whatever the outcome may be, whatever the emotion the speaker would be feeling may be, anyway, the bottom line is, yeah, the speaker is feeling those emotions because they view the number as a big number. Okay, so yeah, I can use it here. Put it behind the unit. Don't put it behind the number, put it behind the unit. Okay, so 9대나 왔어요. Okay, so yeah. 소방차 9대나 왔어요. So now, because I placed this particle, I don't have to sound surprised. I don't have to sound shocked. I can speak and I can look very, very calm and collected. Yeah, but still, the listener will pick up the nuance and know immediately that I am looking at 9 as a big number within this given situation, and therefore I am surprised. I'm shocked. Okay, so because, yeah, usually if there's a fire and 9 소방차s show up, it's usually a huge fire, right? So of course I'm surprised. I'm shocked. Okay, so now we did do one thing. Okay, so, but there's another way you can do it too, right? Right now, I just gave you the sentence, 9 소방차s came. What we're doing is taking that sentence and trying to imbue nuance. The nuance that I, as the speaker, am looking at 9 as a big number. Okay, so a thing that you can do was to use these particles. What's another thing that you can do? To imbue the nuance that you are surprised, you are shocked. There's another thing that you can do, right? Exactly. Yes, exactly. Something that we have been doing. Yes, exactly. When we are not going through the number course, we practiced this over and over and over again. Exactly, yes. I can use a subject particle for reason number 2, to imbue the nuance of frustration or surprise. Exactly. Okay, so yeah, if I'm really, really, really surprised, shocked by the fact that 9 소방차s came, yeah, well, then why not express it twice? If I'm super, super surprised, yeah, I can give the thing that I'm counting, yeah, the subject particle, and I can give, yeah, the number plus counting unit, the ina or na particle. So once again, when you're using ina or na, these particles, to indicate that the speaker is viewing the number as a big number, don't give it to the thing that you're counting, give it to the unit that is paired with the number. Okay, so now I can say 소방차가 9대나 왔어요. Okay, so listen carefully to my tone. I'm gonna say it again. Now, 소방차가 9대나 왔어요. Now, do I sound surprised or shocked or even overwhelmed? No, because I don't have to carry that tone. I don't have to look surprised either. I don't have to have some kind of a facial expression. I don't have to gesture to indicate that I'm surprised. No, I clearly indicated that by giving it a subject particle and the na particle. Okay, so that's why, yes, a lot of times, yes, when you are trying to read nuance in a language like Korean and also Japanese, you cannot really rely on nonverbal expressions. Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay, okay. Yeah, so that's why, a little bit off topic, this doesn't have something to do only with numbers, but that's why still in 2026, yeah, when I was viewing, let's say, when I was observing people learning Korean back in like 2022, back then, I thought that this would be solved in about a year or two, so by 2023 or 2024. But unfortunately, to this day, in 2026, I don't feel like it's getting much better. What I'm talking about is the narratives that are being spread online on social media platforms. Yeah, a narrative that says in some Asian cultures, people don't really animately express themselves, so therefore you have to kind of read the room or something like that. Now, of course, you can run into such people. Of course, everybody's different, but a lot of times it comes from misunderstanding. Because once again, as I just showed you, when people express their emotions in nuance, they don't do it through nonverbal expressions. It can be something very subtle, like a particle. Okay, so that's why both sides are confused. For example, yeah, let's say 9대나 왔어요. So let's say someone could say, oh, you were surprised, you were shocked. I thought that you were expecting 9, so therefore you were not surprised. So if you were surprised, if you are shocked, why do you never express that? Why do you never express your feelings? Now, let's say someone said this to a Korean who said this. Now that Korean could equally be confused, saying, huh? Not animately express myself? How clearer can I be? I used the na particle here. Okay, so it's not that people don't express themselves, it's that they express themselves in their way. Okay, so anyway, reading nuance is always the most important. Okay, so now let's look at another example. Sorry. Now this time, let's say me and my 친구 are trying to get some ice cream. Okay, so yes, this is me, 저. This is 눈치. I'm sorry, I just read the comment. No, 눈치 would be something different. 친구. 눈치 is literally when, yeah, someone does not express themselves in any way, shape, or form, and you have to read the room. That's what 눈치 is. For example, I apologize if this is something disturbing to some of you. But let's say a friend of mine, let's say, let's say this. Let's say we're gonna watch a movie. Yeah, and I get to decide what movie we will watch. So, movie night. So, sorry. Now, let's say I have a friend who's coming over for movie night. He's gonna come over for movie night to watch a movie. Now let's say I know that his brother got into a car accident 2 weeks ago. And let's say his brother was seriously injured. Okay, so he's still in the hospital. So let's say he is very concerned these days. Okay, so if I know this, am I going to play Fast and Furious? Well, I can, but I personally would choose not to. Okay, so yeah, now this friend didn't say anything, didn't even give off the nuance that I don't want to watch movies with cars, okay, especially when they're going crazy fast and bumping into each other. He didn't do anything, he didn't say it, he didn't even give off nuance. But I have 눈치, something called 눈치. So I'm not gonna play Fast and Furious. Even if I was planning to do so, I'm going to change the selection of movie. Okay, so that's what 눈치 is. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, okay. 양고 감사합니다. Okay, so now let's say today we are trying to go get some ice cream. Let's say me and my friend 저 and my 친구 are trying to get some ice cream. And let's say this place, yeah, there's a whole bunch of flavors. Let's say there are like 45 flavors, whatever. So of ice cream. Okay, so yeah, let's say my friend, I've been here a couple of times, but it's my friend's first time being here. So he doesn't know, yeah, a whole lot about, yeah, which flavor is good or bad. Okay, so now my friend is just gonna say, yeah, oh my god, 45 menus? Yeah, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you, is number 12 good? Okay, so let's say there's up to number 12. Anyway, okay, so my 친구 is going to say is number, let's just say it like this, 12 delicious. Yeah, because in Korean you don't use the word good for taste, right? Okay, so we're going to translate it as delicious. Okay, so my friend is going to say, is number 12 delicious? So yeah, we have the subject number 12 because we're saying number 12 is delicious. The subject number 12, and let's use the predicative adjective delicious. Okay, so now, of course, subject first. A little while ago, when we were talking about vocabulary, sorry. Yeah, I said sometimes you would use the abbreviation of 번호, which is 번, when you are labeling. Okay, so right now, yeah, I am using numbers to label because there are, let's say, 12 menus. Yeah, the menu that my friend is talking about, that flavor is labeled number 12. Okay, I'm not counting. I'm not counting, right? I'm not saying, yeah, how many flavors is delicious? Oh, 12 of them? No, I'm not counting. I'm not quantifying how delicious it is either. No, I'm just saying, yeah, that menu, that flavor over there that is called number 12, labeled number 12, is that good? Is that delicious? Okay, so we're going to use, yeah, 번호 or 번. Okay, so when can you use the abbreviation 번? Yes, we did look at an example yesterday, but we will again today. So this abbreviation 번 is used when you're saying number plus number. Okay, yeah. So number plus number. You could say, what does that mean? So I'll show you what that means. Sorry. Okay, here it is. Page number 11. So what do I mean by number plus number? Yeah, page number 11. Number plus number. When you're saying the word number and an actual number. That's what I mean. When you're saying that's number 9. Is number 12 good? Oh, I like number 3. Okay, so that's when you use 번 as the word number and you pair it with some kind of an actual number. Okay, so right now that's exactly what we're doing, right? And because we are quantifying or labeling, of course, sino numbers. Okay, so let's make the number 12 in sino numbers. Okay, so now, how do we make 12 in sino numbers? Okay, so this is a little tip. Take a look at the number that you want. Oops, I'm sorry. Accidentally messed this part up. Anyway, let's fix it later. Okay, so take a look at the number you need, 12. And find the biggest unit within that number. So, do we have 100 in 12? No, right? We don't have 100 in 12. The biggest unit is a 10. Okay, so, yeah, place 10 then, 10. Now, if you do that, what's left? Yeah, 2 is left. So then, yeah, just say 2. 12. 12. 12. Okay, so now we have 12, but in sino numbers. Okay, so I'm going to say number 12, which is 12번. 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 And then 맛있다, delicious. When you're saying good, when you're talking about taste. Okay, but of course I don't want its display form. I want its actual form in present tense, the 요 ending. So 맛있어요. But because it's a question, I'm going to place a question mark and say 12번 맛있어요? 12번 맛있어요? 12번 맛있어요? Is number 12 good? Is number 12 delicious? Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 계속할까요? Should we continue? Okay. So, let's say number plus number again. Now, my friend just asked, is number 12 delicious? 12번 맛있어요? So, let's say my answer is I don't know. Because, I don't know because I only eat number 7. Okay, so the bottom line is I haven't tried number 12 yet either, so I don't know. Okay, so let's try to do this then. Of course, the subject I would be too obvious, and only, so the verb eat, verb, and only number 7. Once again, because only, unlike in English, in Korean, is not an independent standalone, it's a particle, so it has to be attached to the word that it modifies according to the context. So I am saying, not number 12, not number 9, only number 7. Okay, so the object. Once again, yes, do not separate number and the number. Yes, if the number is the object, then they are all together the object. Okay, so let's place the object first. Once again, we're using numbers to label. We're not counting. I'm not saying I only eat 7 menus, 7 flavors. How many flavors do you have? I have 7. No, you're not saying that. And we're not quantifying how delicious, how salty, how sweet a flavor is. No, we're labeling. Okay, so once again, sino numbers. Okay, so we're going to say 7, but in sino numbers, 7. Okay, 7번. So number 7, 7번. Okay, now when you are attaching a particle to, 7번, a number and some kind of a unit, yes, attach it to the unit. Do not attach it to the number itself. 7번만 먹어요. 먹어요. Eat. Of course, 먹다, but I don't want its display form. I want its actual form in present tense. So, 먹어요. 7번만 먹어요. 7번만 먹어요. Okay, so of course, if I want to imbue the nuance of saying, I don't know. I think others like it. I did see others have flavor number 12, but I only eat number 7. Okay, so in that case, I can keep I, right? I can keep I so that I can give it a difference particle. 저, and then a difference particle 는, right? 저는 7번만 먹어요. Okay, so now I practically said without saying, I see other people have flavor number 12, so I guess it's good. But it's just that I only eat number 7. So I am different from other people who enjoy flavor number 12. Okay, so once again, these, particles, 은 and 는, once again, do not think of them as topic marker particles. That term topic marker particle was literally made specifically for exam Korean. And exam Korean, out of all the formats of Korean, might be the most unique out of all. Poetic Korean, soldier Korean, playful Korean, professional Korean, conversational Korean, and there's exam Korean. Okay, so once again, once you step outside of that exam format, calling them topic marker particles stop working. They lead you to too many exceptions and too many confusions. So that's why we use a much more intuitive term, a difference particle, right? Okay, so it indicates that, yes, something is different from something else in some sense. Okay, so 저는 7번만 먹어요. So that's why I don't know. I don't know about flavor number 12. Okay, does that make sense? If it does, 넘어갈까요? Should we move on? Okay, okay. So, now, this is a little bit off topic. So, understanding these difference particles properly would be very, very, very important. So, I'll show you an example of it. So, this is off topic, so this might be edited out from the video. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, these lives will go to YouTube as videos, right? So that you can always review. Okay, so this part might be edited out. Anyway, so do not look at 저는 as something called a topic marker particle. Okay, so this is an example that I always use, right? A very intuitive example. Let's say I am in a room with a person. We're talking. We are the only ones here. Okay, so whatever the context may be, let's say for whatever reason I said 저는 친절해요. I am friendly, or it can also be used as polite. 저는 친절해요. Now, what did I do? I am actually starting a fight. Why? Because I just said you are not polite. Because I said 저는 친절해요. I am different for being polite, which means that you are not polite. Okay, because you are the only person that I can compare myself to, and if I am different for being polite, it must be that you are not polite. Okay, so if this person was really being rude to you and you want to call them out for being rude, okay, well, maybe then this works. But what if this person was polite to you? Then this could be really a problem, right? Because this person could say, okay, well, how much more do I have to do here? I was being super polite to you. So you're telling me I'm still not polite? Do I have to like kneel and treat you as a king? Do I have to do all of that? Okay, so yeah, that's why I call them, using a very intuitive term, a difference particle. Okay, anyway, has nothing to do with numbers, so I'm sorry about the side quest. Okay, so anyway, that was it for actually the third live out of the 8 that altogether constitute the number course. Okay, so today what we did was, yeah, we tried to build a couple of more examples using numbers and units so that we can get a little bit more used to it. Now, the next live, what we will do is practically the same thing. We will build more examples using more numbers and more units until we get more used to it. And yeah, in the next live, we will try to go up and try to build bigger and bigger numbers.